I've been fascinated by this whole debate about gotcha questions and gotcha journalism because it does exist, and I think there are times when the press goes too far in trying to trap politicians just to get a headline. And I think, as we've talked about on the show in the last couple of weeks, that Republican candidates or politicians seem to be more subjected to this. Well, so-and-so said something really controversial. Do you agree with this? Well, where's your stand on evolution? Than are Democratic politicians and candidates. Having said all that, I had some words of praise from my colleague Chris Wallace for the way he interviewed Scott Walker, the governor of Wisconsin, and a very hot Republican presidential candidate right now, because he very methodically went through what Walker's position had been in 2013 when it came to the hot button subject of immigration. And he actually played a videotape on Fox News Sunday showing that Walker had said that he would be open to a path to citizenship for illegal immigrants already in this country. If they were to pay a fine and if they meet certain requirements, they could eventually become citizens. Well, that's not Scott Walker's position now. And when pressed by Chris Wallace, Walker said, well, I've changed my mind. So he flip-flopped on the issue. This brought an email from Lee in Virginia, who likes to email us quite a bit, and we appreciate that. And she writes, oh, come on, Howie. Scott Walker changed his position on legalization of illegal immigrants. You could say he, quote, grew, a trope commonly used when liberals do it, or even more so when conservatives become liberals, or that he re-examined his position on the basis of more recent developments, or simply, as he put it, that he changed his mind. I'd say it shows political maturity. And if his, quote, admission of a changed mind wasn't the first phrase out of his mouth in the Chris Wallace interview, so what? One of Walker's charms is that he doesn't sound like he's regurgitating preset talking points. He actually answers questions. Can't we all agree that intelligent people do change their positions as circumstances evolve and not harass Scott Walker or anyone else for having dared to do so? Yes, I totally agree with that. I also deny that I was in any way harassing Governor Walker. I think politicians should have the right to change their minds. I think it can be the subject of an evolution when you've thought more about a position. Now, when it happens that you're a governor of a state and you have one position, and then you're running for president and you change your position, of course, some of your critics are going to say that you changed your mind just because now you wanted to play on a national stage. And this became a problem for Mitt Romney because he seemed to change his positions, whether it was Romney Care versus Obamacare, whether it was immigration, where he suddenly was talking about self-deportation, and a number of other issues. If you do enough of that, then you are subject to being seen as having no core principles. But if Scott Walker has thought this through, and he has changed his mind, that's great. I don't want politicians who never, ever, ever change their minds, who think the exact same things about all issues that they thought 10 years ago, 20 years ago, 30 years ago. Hell, President Obama changed his mind about gay marriage. And he ran in 2008, he was against it. Then he evolved. Now he's for it. Maybe that reflected changing times. Maybe it reflected an effort to play to the Democratic base that became more comfortable and more of an advocate for same-sex marriage, as indeed public opinion in this country shifted. So when I say Scott Walker flip-flopped, I didn't mean to imply it as a pejorative. He changed his mind, and it was refreshing that rather than argue, oh, no, I've always had this position, he admitted changing his mind. But I also wanted to point out that what Chris Wallace did was he did the research, he came armed with the facts, he didn't badger Scott Walker, and he got him to acknowledge the change of position. That's good journalism. I call that accountability reporting. And I wanted to give a tip of the hat to my colleague on that one.